Привет, I'm Chuck Olenek, a Ukrainian-American baptized with the name Yaroslav, which is also the name I use in the historical reenactment group, the Society for Creative Anachronism, or the SCA, where I'm known as Yaroslav the Persistent. Part of the reason I get into exploring Slavic and Baltic mythology and folklore is that these would be the stories and the life lessons that go with those stories that would be spoken about or sung about beside campfires, or when people would be sitting beside the peach, the big oven that kept everyone warm in the house. And these images, from these tales and these lessons from these tales, they would color the worlds of the listeners, and they would imbue them with awe and magic, and these stories would help to explain the mysteries of life, the unknowns. And when you're dealing with mysteries, death is one of the biggies, all right? And we wonder where someone goes when death takes them, and sometimes death happens too soon and we want to undo it. Well, in mythology and folklore and Marvel Comics and DC Comics and Lord of the Rings, we can undo death. All right? The heroes come back. So every culture has these types of stories. And there's a perilous quest involved, and there's a search for a talisman to bring back a slain, usually murdered loved one. In the Finnish epic Kalevala, Lemminkäinen, a hero drowns in the river of Tuonela, the underworld basically, in trying to capture or kill the black swan that lives there as part of an attempt to win a daughter of Louhi as his wife. When he gets torn to pieces, his mother collects his scattered remains and, by a dexterous operation, restores him to physical unity. But the silence of death still possesses him. Then she entreats the bee to bring vivifying honey. After 2 fruitless journeys, the bee succeeds in bringing back honey from the cellars of Ukko, the god of the sky, weather, harvest, and thunder in Finnic and Estonian paganism. When this has been applied, the dead man returns to life, sits up, and says, in the words very much like Russian heroes, "How long have I slept?" Everyone's got a story about a water of life, or some type of lotion or ointment, some sort of magical elixir that gets poured on the body. It's in every culture. All right? So, when a hero of one of these folk tales dies, they've been done to death in some evil manner, there are the tales where the damage is undone by, a search for this lotion or ointment. And there seems to be a thing in these folk tales and legends that it's a raven or some sort of crow who's supposed to know where this invaluable item is to be found. Or you might have a falcon or an eagle. There's a story told in Kazakhstan, a Kyrgyz story, to explain 3 statues which used to stand near the Ayaguza, a river falling into Lake Balkhash. A golden-haired hero finds, after his long search, the maiden that he had been in very early life. He'd been betrothed to her. Well, her father's not good with this at all, and has him murdered. And she persuades the murderer to show her the body of her dead love, and she weeps over it bitterly. And the spirit comes to her and tells her to sprinkle his corpse with water from a particular well. And what the woman does is she convinces or induces the murderer to allow her to lower him into the well by her remarkably long hair. And he passes up the water to her. And she gets her revenge by cutting off her hair. He drops. All right? And he drowns. So she sprinkles the water over her lover's corpse, and he revives, but he's only around for 3 days and dies. She refuses to live without him. She's buried at his side, and from the graves of the lovers spring 2 willows, and they mingle their branches together as if in an embrace. And people that lived in the area set up 3 statues on the spot: his, hers, and her nurse's. Water from the heavens is considered to be life-giving, as opposed to water on or under the earth itself. The first rain of the day, in fact, was considered to have great energy. It could make your face younger. It hasn't worked for me yet. And more beautiful, and give health to the body. It could even grant good fortune to one's fate. This is why people always hurried outside for the first rain. It's also probably why, to this day, the idea of magic water is in people's imaginations. This water is similar to, in its qualities, to ancient Greek ambrosia or nectar. It gives great physical strength, it heals wounds, returns life to the dead, probably removes spots. To this day, if you go to an Orthodox church, you're going to recognize that any time water is blessed in churches, expect a lot of CEOs or Christmas and Easter only people to be in attendance. The skazka, as the Russians would say, or the kazka, as the Ukrainians would say, differs from most stories in its kind, in this respect, in that it almost invariably speaks of 2 kinds of magic waters as being employed for the restoration of life or health. In the story Maria Morevna, one of these, sometimes called the mrtvaya voda, the dead water or the water of death, when sprinkled over a mutilated corpse, heals the wounds, while the other, which bears the name of zhivaya voda, the living water or water of life, endows it once more with vitality, basically jumpstarts the body. I'll get to that in another video. Of course, if you're going to go looking for a magical item, it's got to be a quest that's filled with danger, and you have to go, let's say one of the big quotes from a lot of Russian and Ukrainian stories, beyond thrice 9 lands into the 30th country. And the waters are always guarded. In a Ukrainian story, they're guarded by 2 iron-beaked ravens, and the way lies between hills that come together and grind, and they'll separate at times, and there's the trick in figuring out when they separate. Sometimes you'll also have an evil relative send a hero on this quest, knowing the danger and hoping maybe the hero doesn't make it. There's a Slovak version of this story where a murderous mother sends her son to the 2 mountains, that come together, and each of which is cleft open once every 24 hours. One opens at midday, the other at midnight, and the former reveals the water of life, the latter reveals the water of death. Sometimes we run into 2 magic fluids, one of which heals all wounds and restores sight to the blind and vigor to the cripple, while the other destroys or weakens all that it touches. Such liquors as these are known as the waters of strength and of weakness, and are usually described as being stowed away in a cellar of some many-headed snake. So the snake's often mentioned as some sort of a guardian or possessor of the magic fluids. Okay, that's going to be the subject of another video. All right, and as a matter of fact, the waters of strength and of weakness, that will be in the next video, and I'll introduce you to a villain named Vikor Whirlwind, an enchanter. Until then, do pobачення.